Los Angeles, California. March 9th, 2019. Dissatisfied with mainstream scientific analysis of the DoD GIMBAL video, author and ancient astronaut theorist Mike Barra invited astrophysicist and aerospace engineer Dr. Travis Taylor to participate in an evaluation of the DoD's footage. They are also curious about the potential connection between the extraordinary movements of the UFO craft depicted and what Bob Lazar reported as the unique properties of what he is convinced was a captured extraterrestrial spacecraft, powered by element 115.
So here's the thing, though. If you assume the pilots are telling the truth, and if you assume the DoD is telling the truth,
right,
then don't you have a much stronger case for something unusual being present on these videos?
Yeah, so if you make all those assumptions, then you have this craft in this video that is performing outside of our abilities to manipulate physics with aerospace vehicles today.
Travis Taylor has worked on various programs for the United States Department of Defense and NASA for over 16 years.
I'm an optical scientist, an aerospace engineer, an astronomer, and a physicist, and I've worked in the aerospace and defense industry since I was 17 years old. And it's intriguing that a lot of people are saying that this gimbal video is something like what Bob Lazar claims to have worked on.
Mike Barra has written numerous books about U.S. and international space programs and has done extensive research into aviation technology.
The thing to me that's really interesting about this video is the fact that it actually encourages people to believe that these are alien spacecraft. Now, why would the government want to do that?
For Mike and Travis, the first step in analyzing the DoD footage is to determine whether it is genuine or could have been fabricated. To assist them in this effort, they have turned to a master of illusion.
Hey.
Hey.
Hollywood visual effects supervisor, Sam Edwards.
How you doing, Travis?
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, come on, after you.
This way?
Yeah, perfect. Here's the screening room.
Wow, this is great.
Yeah. Have a seat anywhere.
So, do you think that you and your team could go and recreate a video that looked authentic, like it came from, you know, the F-18 gun camera from, 2004 or whatever?
Listen, I'm in the visual effects business, right? And we don't ever say no.
Right.
Right? But, the joke is about the moon landing is, it must be real because Hollywood would never make something so boring.
Right.
Right?
Good point.
So there's no mediation at all to this image, right? It couldn't be more dull. It's just technically, this is in there and that's in there. There's nobody's artistic vision at all.
That to me is one of the best arguments right there for it. That makes perfect sense.
While there is no way to determine for certain that the video wasn't fabricated, based on what they are seeing, as well as the pilot's eyewitness corroboration, Mike, Travis, and Sam are convinced that the footage is genuine. If true, the implications are profound, as even some military personnel are of the opinion that the maneuvers displayed by the craft in the gimbal video resemble no known man-made technology.
So now the next question is the origin of that advanced propulsion.
Right.
Is it man-made advanced propulsion or is it extraterrestrial?
Let's try to reverse engineer what's there and understand what we're looking at. So yeah, it's air-to-air footage, and I thought that was kind of cool. I stabilized out some of the camera motion so we could kind of get a better feel for its trajectory.
Oh, okay.
Wow, yeah.
That's cool.
That tells us how much it's actually moving.
Which doesn't seem to me to be supersonic or anything like it.
If you look at that, it looks to me like there's structure in a couple of places. Now we're below it, right? Something right in here, and then something here. The interesting thing here is if you were looking at an SR-71 and it was below you and you're looking down at it, the wings would look sort of disc-shaped like that, and there would be a tail and there would be a nose structure, and these would be your wings.
If that's a wing, then what's going on now? Right? It's still traveling in the same direction.
Yeah.
It looks a lot like a top, doesn't it?
It doesn't really coincide with the aerodynamics of a regular airplane.
You look at fighter pilots, they can roll, they can pitch, they can crab, they can yaw. I mean, they can do all sorts of things to an airplane to make it look unusual.
I hear what you're saying, and we made a CG model, and I kind of hand-tracked it to sort of match its motion, so we could kind of get a feel for what some of its dimensions are.
Yeah, it's interesting. If it's looking straight on like your model there, your model matches to it pretty good.
Well, let me show you something else that catches my eye, gentlemen. What seems odd to me, this kind of light that follows behind the craft. There's no such thing as a light source that follows around behind an aircraft.
Right, because it's clearly there now that you pointed. I can't believe I didn't see it before.
Yeah.
So the system is in black hot mode. What that tells me, if black is hot, there's a cold region, a cold region around the vehicle. Think about it as a cold region around a propulsion system is odd. You typically are going to be, warm coming out of the exhaust or near your engine or whatever.
Doesn't that argue that it's not a conventional propulsion system?
July 20th, 1976. NASA's unmanned Viking 1 orbiter and lander touches down on the surface of Mars. 3 weeks later, it is joined by its companion, the Viking 2. For the first time ever, humanity has established a presence on another planet.
The Viking landers actually landed on Mars and took a sample, but they landed in one spot, and they stayed in one spot. We've since sent the Pathfinder Sojourner. For the first time, we have a system on Mars that if we see something shiny over there and we want to go check it out, we'll send the rover and get a very close look at it, take samples, get high-definition video from it, and that is a very good start for figuring out where people need to go when we get ready to send them there.
In 2012, the Curiosity rover landed on Mars's Gale crater. It was the most ambitious Mars mission flown by NASA to date.
Touchdown confirmed. Proceed on Mars.
One of its objectives was to gather data that will help scientists determine what is needed to make the planet more habitable for human exploration. In June 2018, scientist and aerospace engineer Dr. Travis Taylor traveled to Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. There, he met with NASA exploration mission scientist Dr. Elizabeth Rampey. Dr. Rampey analyzes data obtained by the Mars Curiosity rover, which 6 years into its mission is sending back some of its most extraordinary findings yet.
So there was very late-breaking news recently from the Curiosity rover, and some interesting information came out of the Sample Analysis at Mars, or SAM instrument.
Okay.
So SAM can measure gases in the atmosphere, and it can also measure gases that are evolved from samples. So basically, we drill a rock, deliver that powder to the instrument, and then that instrument heats up the sample and measures the gases that are coming off.
Whatever outgasses, it can tell you what that is, right?
Exactly. So a big piece of information from the atmosphere is that we've been tracking methane over the last few Martian years, and what we see is that there is a cycle to it where it spikes late summer, early autumn, and then dips again.
Wow.
Yeah, so the big question is why is that happening?
So that could possibly be due to an organic material, right? Or a biological source.
Exactly.
Meaning
so
life.
that's right. I know. So huge.
Wow.
It's not the only hypothesis out there.
Sure.
But, there is the possibility that there is extant life on Mars that is creating this methane.
Wow. The fact that NASA has now released information that they've measured a cycle of methane that goes up in the summer and down in the winter, it sounds very similar to how biological processes create methane here on Earth. That could be evidence that there's life right now on Mars.
Life on Mars? According to NASA, such a profound notion is a distinct possibility. But although the space agency is still working to confirm their findings, ancient astronaut theorists remain confident of the outcome. They have maintained for decades that not only does the red planet contain life, but that it was once home to a highly advanced extraterrestrial civilization. And for their proof, they point to the existence of possible structures found on its surface.
There are lots of claims of photographs showing different features on the surface of Mars. These have come from the orbiters that are obviously taking pictures as they go round all the time. And some people would find different features and interpret them as geometric or rectilinear structures that suggest civilization.
You see everything you would expect to see if you went to someplace on planet Earth 50,000 years from now when the human race had been wiped out. They clearly are technological objects that have become fossilized.
While the notion that an ancient civilization once existed on Mars may sound far-fetched, NASA has continued to make discoveries that could reveal something even more incredible: that life on Earth actually originated on Mars.
So what is this? Tell me what this is.
Okay, so this is a Martian meteorite. So this is a rock that came from Mars.
How long ago?
The rock itself is about 180 million years old, so that's when it crystallized on Mars. And to give you some context, 180 million years ago, dinosaurs were roaming the Earth.
Right. Well, we know that this rock came from Mars. So if there was organic material on Mars 3.5 billion years ago, something could have caused that organic material to go from there to here, right?
Right, and what's interesting about, 3.5 billion years ago is that's when life was taking hold on Earth. So,
right.
And Mars was once very Earth-like with rivers and lakes. So why not Mars? We've got all the building blocks for life on Mars, so why couldn't it happen there?
So it's very possible that we're descendants of Martians.
I'm not going to rule that out.
University of California at Irvine, April 2017. Aerospace engineer Travis Taylor has obtained a model of an aircraft whose design specifications are based solely on information gleaned from ancient Indian texts that are believed to have been formally set to writing in 500 BC. He is going to subject it to wind tunnel analysis to determine if it is a viable flying machine.
So, explain to me what we've set up here with that wind tunnel.
Okay, so this is our aerospace vehicle model. It's connected to this boom. The armature has a force gauge on it. We're gonna have airflow go past it at about 50 miles per hour or so. And then we're gonna measure forces against it to determine if it's gonna fly or not.
And so what are the signs that you're looking for in order to determine whether this is, in fact, aerodynamically sound?
Right, so we're gonna measure the normal force, and the normal force is up or down. If it starts to move up, then that'll be exciting because it's actually going to be rising, and that's how you get flight. When an airplane turns up and starts to move, it's because it's getting lift. The other thing is I don't want to see it going real bad side to side or real bad chatter up and down, because that would mean it's unstable.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's fire her up and see what happens.
Yeah, let's do it. The flow's coming up to speed.
Yeah.
While being subjected to 50-mile-an-hour winds, the craft exhibits a slight lift upwards, yet remains relatively steady.
No side-to-side wobble.
Okay.
Sensors record the measurements of various forces, as well as torque and pitch, to determine just how aerodynamic the body is.
It looks very stable.
All right. So let's look at the results.
So what happened during the test was the normal force, which is where we measure the lift, it was positive between 0.03 and 0.06 pounds of force. That means we were measuring lift. So our vehicle
in the wind tunnel experiment was showing positive lift like an aircraft would.
Did you expect these results from a shape that's like that?
Well, the shape looks like a lifting body to me, but you never know until you actually do the experiment. And we have experimental results now that says it is. So that's the exciting part.
And what do you say to anyone who questions the idea that this information has been taken from a text that's at least 1,800 years old?
The only thing you can say is we performed a good scientific experiment, and the results were that the shape made from those texts is a viable aerodynamic structure.
The aircraft model, created using details garnered from the ancient Indian texts, has proven to be flight-worthy. Is it possible that by studying the ancient Indian texts, we may be able to recreate advanced technology that existed thousands of years ago in India? Ancient astronaut theorists suggest that the texts may also contain details for advanced spacecraft. Hindu scholars point out that stories of space travel can be found throughout the pages of the ancient Sanskrit texts. There are even detailed accounts of humans entering flying crafts and being transported to other solar systems.
In the ancient text of Vishnu Purana, Lord Vishnu decides to take Dhruva, a human being, through an interstellar journey. We know this because it is specifically stated that Dhruva would be taken beyond planets like Mercury, Venus, and even beyond some other stars.
According to the text, he went past 7 planetary systems in a physical craft, and eventually he reached the solar system and planet of Vishnu Loka, the planet that Vishnu is said to have come from. So here we have the story of extraterrestrials taking a human to another solar system.
Although few details exist of the craft Dhruva was transported in, scholars have noted that highly specific descriptions of space vehicles can be found throughout the texts.
In the Samaranga Sutrahara text, there's a description of an engine that uses mercury, and the mercury swirls in a vortex, and it uses the heat from perhaps solar power to create some type of flying capability. My thought on this is it sounds a lot like an ion engine.
The concept for ion engines has actually been around for more than 100 years. Now, the way it works is xenon gas, which is like helium or neon, but heavier, is introduced into a chamber here, and it's ionized, which means it's given an electric charge. And once it has an electric charge, a voltage applied between this grid and one just behind it causes the xenon to shoot out of the engine. Well, the action of the xenon going out this direction causes a reaction that pushes the spacecraft in the other direction. And that's how the ion thruster propels the spacecraft.
You heat the ions up, and then you accelerate them at the back end of the spacecraft. It puts out a small amount of thrust, but for a very long time. And that's why ion engines are uniquely perfect for inner space travel.
In 2017, NASA's Advanced Exploration Systems Division asserted that identifying and extracting mineral resources in space, such as iron, tungsten, and titanium, would be essential for future space exploration and colonization.
The moon and the near-Earth objects that are not too far from Earth, they're loaded with minerals and raw materials. You can look at the moon, and where the Sea of Tranquility and the other seas, they have a different coloration because there's titanium oxide covering the surface. We know there's uranium there because we've detected radon gas. So there's all sorts of materials.
One of the companies I'm proud of having co-founded is a company called Planetary Resources, who's got a vision of going to near-Earth asteroids to mine those asteroids for fuel and ultimately precious metals, platinum group metals, or construction metals.
But as NASA makes plans to mine essential space minerals, Is it possible that other advanced civilizations came to Earth centuries ago for the same reason? As far as ancient astronaut theorists are concerned, the answer is yes. And they believe the evidence can be found in the Sumerian stories of the Anunnaki, written more than 5,000 years ago.
When we analyze the story of the Anunnaki's creation of humanity, some very interesting nuances come out that might lead into understanding what humans might face in their own eventual colonization of another planet.
When famed ancient astronaut theorist Zecharia Sitchin studied the Sumerian tablets in the 1970s, he not only reached the conclusion that the Anunnaki came to Earth to escape a dying planet, but also noted that while here, they used humans to mine for gold.
When we look at the creation stories of biblical tales, we understand that God created the earth in 7 days. It turns out that this consolidated version of 7 days can be translated to a much earlier story in Sumerian form called the Atrahasis, where there's actually 7 tablets of creation telling how the Anunnaki came to Earth and genetically engineered us in their image and in their likeness to mine the gold for them here on Earth.
Is it possible that when the ancient Sumerians wrote about giant beings coming down from the sky and digging for gold, they were in fact documenting a visitation by extraterrestrials who were mining for resources, just as NASA is planning to do in the not-too-distant future? June 2018. Scientist and aerospace engineer Dr. Travis Taylor is at Johnson Space Center's Building 9, the astronaut training facility. He is meeting with robotics engineer Lucien Junkin, who is eager to show him the latest in extraterrestrial transportation.
I see this is a rover. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, this is basically an off-roading RV for Moon and Mars.
And what is it that makes this so much better than, say, the lunar rover?
It can go out and explore. So the concept is if you have a habitat, you're gonna take 2 of these rovers and they'll go out for a week to 2 weeks and explore, come back, refuel, and then we'll be back out exploring.
Can we look inside or maybe go for a ride with it?
Let's go for a ride.
Oh, that'll be awesome.
Okay. Just put your foot there, jump on up.
All right.
Pilot's on, power's on, go to low gear.
Low gear.
Push forward on the stick.
The Planetary Analog Test Site, also known as the Rock Yard, is a multi-acre simulation of lunar and Martian terrain. It is here that the space exploration vehicle endures rigorous testing to determine its readiness for eventual off-Earth deployment.
Let's go through that crater first.
Okay. Just go up and over?
Yeah.
Can it handle that kind of a...
Yeah, if you put your foot right up there, that'll brace you in your seat. So like on a tank, you would typically feel it tip over.
Yeah.
So active suspension, each one of the wheel modules, it senses it.
Right, I see that. How about that? It's all right to ride across these?
Yeah, drive across anything.
Wow, this is amazing. When it sees a big rock like that, it just goes right over it?
Yeah, just go right over it. Let me show you something.
All right.
So you're gonna pick out a rock and we're gonna explore the rock in this.
Okay. Yeah, let's look at that rock right over there.
So look at this rock right here.
Uh-huh.
You can bow down to it. And then another cool feature, you twist this way.
Oh, then it crabs. Yeah, I got you, I got you.
See how we can just rotate all the way around?
That's amazing.
You're doing perfect. And then we're gonna shoot straight up that hill right there, the big hill.
Straight.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is a rock climbing full.
Climb up a wall in this thing. See?
Yeah. And we want the vehicle to go places where they're like, this is my life support system.
Right.
I'm not going there.
Yeah, right.
But the vehicle would go.
We'll do it if they have to.
We'll do
right?
it if they have to.